What's going on, everybody? This is Chris Classic with a second car vlog today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. If nobody tells you, remember that God loves you, Christ loves you, and I love you as well. We are on the way to get the kids from work. Another good day. I hope you guys are having a good day. And if you aren't, I hope you have a better day. God bless you guys. I'm going to wait a little bit before I speak about it because this is news to me. I didn't know what was going on between Gail, Kim, and Kenny Omega. I had no idea that it was a situation until like 2:30 today, 30 minutes ago. So, but in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this channel, the Take It Home podcast, where I talk about professional wrestling topics and put in my matches as classic out for a professional wrestler of 13 years. I got merch. I don't know if you guys know. If you guys need a shirt and want to try to order it through PayPal, I'll let you guys know the link to get the shirts. It's best to get them from PayPal, or I could probably ship you one if you pay for it via PayPal or maybe even Zelle. So, like I said, I do want new gear or whatever like that, but I feel like wearing my classic outfit shirt. So subscribe to this channel. Also subscribe to C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That is me and my wife's professional wrestling company and channel. Make sure you guys look at the matches. We just uploaded the 4-on-4 Team C3 versus Team Board match. Make sure you subscribe. So look at that match. Enjoy it. Comments, subscribe, and everything. I did want to talk about this Gail Kim's comments about Riho. Gail Kim is a TNA Hall of Famer. To me, I do think she is one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. When you look at her stuff in WWE, you can say it's questionable because of how they treated her. But in TNA, you could definitely tell she was definitely one of the ones. She was the first Knockouts Women's Champion. She's had historic feuds with Awesome Kong. They've had great matches there. She's done great things. The move set and stuff like that. She is one of the greatest technical wrestlers. I've always said that. I've always posted about it. I made videos on my YouTube channel speaking about that. So I do think what she does say about certain things in the state of women's wrestling, it is very, very respectable. What's going on, M4? Riho is a women's wrestler that wrestles for AEW, All Elite Wrestling, and she was the first AEW Women's Champion. A lot of people like her. A lot of people love her and stuff like that. And in Japan, they do what Joshi. I'm not familiar with the stuff, but it's sort of like dressing very young, schoolgirl stuff, pop stuff, Sailor Moon stuff. I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to sit here and try to give you a background of it. But what I know about her is that she was the first AEW Women's Champion. And, yeah, a lot of people like her. Some people do not. I've been very, very vocal. What's going on, Melissa? I've been very, very vocal on Riho and women her size, going against women twice her size. And we're about to get into that. So basically, Gail Kim was watching or was asked to watch Jim Cornette's comments about Riho. Now, Jim Cornette, former owner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling and stuff like that. He was a manager and stuff. He has a channel. Honestly, when he's not playing around, he has great insight. He's more right than he is wrong. I do think some of the preferences that he put be a problem with certain things, and some stuff that he does say is very, very disrespectful. He's not a fan of Japanese wrestling, and he will say it by how he mocks their name, how he says some things and everything like that. But for the most part, what he does say, I agree with certain states of wrestling and certain matches. I will say that. So he's been very, very vocal about Riho, saying like she's small, she's less than 100 pounds, she needs to do this. You know, he has talked about her appearance and stuff like that. Like I said, that's one thing that is going too far as far of that. What's going on, Lucky? So I will say that Gail Kim listened to some of the clips that he said, and for the most part, she agreed with him. No, I'm not saying it. She agreed with him, except the part about her teeth, because he said something about her teeth. So basically, she says the issues that she does have with Riho is, one, it's not even her per se, it's the cameraman work. It's the people they're saying, like how they look at, like how they put the camera angles on her. And she also says she doesn't like how she does dress up like a young girl, like a schoolgirl or whatever like that. She does not like that. Now, let's speak on that part first. The camera angles, I have been very vocal as well about AEW's camera angles, especially when it comes to women's wrestling. Now, me, I feel like the women there, they don't mind it. You're going to be blocked, Lucky, respectfully. Anyway, I do think that we are talking about Gail Kim's comments about Riho. Gail Kim basically said that when she looked at Jim Cornette's clips about Riho, she said that, you know, she didn't like what Jim said about her teeth, but she said she does have a problem with the cameraman, how they like record women, especially Riho, with up close stuff. And she also talked about like how she dresses like a little schoolgirl. So anyway, the cameraman on AEW, I say this all the time, when it's women's wrestling, that cameraman be right there. He be all up in there, all up and through there, like he's zooming in. They're not doing camera cuts like another angle just in case a woman's, you know, stuff is like about to show out. Like they are right there. Rhea is dressing good. And I'm also going to talk about WWE stuff too, right? When it comes to camera. But for the most part, when I used to watch a lot of the AEW women's matches, you know, the camera angles, they're right up the buttocks. They're you know, and these women are wearing and dressing provocative. They're dressing this kind of stuff, and they know this stuff because some of them have OFs. They have the fan zones. They have the other stuff. Hey, subscribe if you want to see more. They have a whole bunch of stuff, so they're promoting that because Tony is allowing them to do it. Now, I have my own gripes about it, especially when you try to say respect women's wrestling and do this and that, but then you don't hold yourself to respect yourself when it comes to it, because you're sitting here like, hey, how dare people treat me like this, but you're dressing a certain way. Now, you shouldn't treat anybody a certain way, but at the same time, you shouldn't sell it, in my opinion. But it is what it is. AEW is dead nuts. Like, even like Tony, how she speaks sexually and stuff like that. And, you know, she had the match with Sky Blue where they were stapling each other's body parts and stuff. But so, hold on guys, 1 second. Had to take care of some business. Anyway, still, some people, when Gail Kim said that, some people said Dean left because he wanted to do his own thing. It's John Moxley. He is the heart and soul of AEW, but I'm still not a fan of his moveset. But still, he bleeds a lot. He does a lot of stuff that's unnecessary. So when Gail Kim made those comments, some people turned around and said, oh, well, look at Stephanie Valkyrie, and when she did the devil's kiss, and look at how the cameraman zooms in. The cameraman doesn't technically zoom in, he zooms out, and they usually do like a sky cam or whatever of it. But it is a good point. It is definitely a good point. And even how Booker T goons on it, like everybody's doing that now. And it's even to the point to where Rhea Ripley is doing, when she did it, they went crazy. You know, Rhea Ripley, she humps ropes and she does a whole bunch of other stuff and all of that. So I definitely get it. Those are valid points, but I do think that AEW is more consistent with doing this kind of stuff. And it's not just Riho, it's other women's wrestlers too. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to show this to my wife or a woman who want to wrestle, because she's probably going to feel like the cameraman is going to be zooming right there. And sometimes WWE does it too. Sometimes it seems like it's unintentional or whatever, but sometimes as soon as it's on the camera angle, people are screenshotting it, they're zooming in, they're making their own personal videos about it. So I'm just saying, so I definitely get what she's saying when it comes to the camera angles, but it's not per se just for Riho, it's just for women's wrestling in general. That's just something that they just do. As far as her dressing like a schoolgirl, like, I get it too. I see both sides. I do see both sides. I do think that, like, if it's not women dressing like schoolgirls or little teens or whatever, then it's girls that's like very, very provocative. Tiffany Stratton, she has a chest out. Jay, chest out. And they have a lot of the stuff. And, you know, sex sells. So it's like, it's not per se going to try to promote it to kids, but at the same time, these are things that kids are also seeing. Like, it's not just like, oh, adults are seeing this. No, kids are seeing this too. Your chest out, your chest is out. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely get it when it comes to like her dressing like a schoolgirl. But even to then, the people who disagree with Gail, they do bring great points of how some of the other women dress, provocative two pieces, like chest out, bottoms out, and stuff like that. These are good points. These are good points, but I definitely get it. I personally think for the state of women's wrestling, as somebody who is a fan of wrestling, hey, if you do cover up, I mean, it wouldn't hurt that much. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't hurt that much. Riho, you know, dressing like a schoolgirl and stuff like that, that could be slightly disturbing to a lot of people that's watching it. WWE does a lot of cuts, though. They do cuts. They do cuts. So this moveset sucks. Yeah, definitely. They do a lot of cuts. They zoom out, or if there is something, they zoom in so you don't see the bottom part. But they have slipped. They rarely slip. The thing is, when you bring up a Stephanie or Rhea, sometimes they try to cut the angle or whatever. AEW does not cut that angle. I just don't get. See, that's the thing. In Japan, it's something Joshi or whatever. I don't know exactly what it is and what's the group they cater to, but that's how they dress. And she's been doing this since she's been there. And like I said, Jim can be very disrespectful for when he says certain things, but he is right about the presentation of a Riho going against women that are twice and 3 times her size, and she's winning. Not only winning, but winning convincingly, right? That is something that needs to be said. I kind of think it makes sense. Look at ballet. They wear the same things. But that's the thing, is I can get that too, but at the same time, I don't understand the character, but people love her. So AEW is like, hey, if you get a reaction, we're going to put you on TV more. That's just one of the things that they do. Third point that Gail Kim said was, basically, she's not a fan of her matches because her matches are not believable. And that goes into something that I've always said too. This is why I agree with Gail Kim. Riho is considered one of the smallest women they have on the roster. And y'all have her beating women twice her size, the Chris Statlanders of the world and stuff like that. You guys have her beating these women convincingly. And it's not believable because it's always a back and forth thing. Even to the WWE's point, a lot of people loved Io versus Rhea's matches. They were okay. My problem was y'all kept making Io seem like she was even with Rhea, like back and forth. If anything, Rhea should be ragdolling Io for the most of the match, and that doesn't happen. They do tit for tat, and that's the only thing I have about it, is that y'all had Rhea being unstoppable at one point. Y'all had a body slamming Luke Gallows. She beat Akira Tozawa. She was choking out Ray and Dominic. Y'all had her dominating the mid for the most part. And then y'all turn around and you mean to tell me when she goes against Io, she can't hold her own better? She can't dominate like she doesn't dominate. And once again, it's not just the real thing, it's just the projection of women's wrestling. SummerSlam, Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill should have turned her every which way but loose. But instead, they did let's just do a competitive match. No, look, you see how Jade looks? Jade should be body slamming, gorilla pressing. She'll be doing a whole bunch of these moves. But instead, y'all did that, and that match wasn't even that good. Cameraman is a man of the culture. I kind of think it makes it okay. I mean, like Tiffany and other women, but Riho, I just don't understand. And then even with Tiffany's point, right? Tiffany is bigger than Riho. So it makes a little bit more sense. It's just a projection of how you should have had Jade Cargill, in my opinion. But even with that, right? Riho is a lot smaller. So when you try to sit here, you try to tell me that she can beat a lot of these other women, I don't see it. And with wrestling, I know a lot of people see that it's more exposed than anything, but some people still want it to be believable. They want it to be believable. And to me, Riho probably shouldn't be winning as much as she could unless she was an underdog. But they don't have her placed as an underdog. So for Gail Kim, who is a legend in the game, can sit here and be like, okay, I don't see that she's believable. It's not disrespecting Riho, because everybody knows what goes on in wrestling at this point. It's not disrespecting Riho, but for some reason, the people on Twitter and stuff, they think that Gail was disrespecting Riho, and she wasn't. Just because I'm not a fan of somebody too, by the way, doesn't mean I'm being disrespectful. I'm not a fan of Jon Moxley. I'm not a fan of him, but I won't deny what he contributed to AEW. I'm not a fan of him or whatever like that. Not a fan of his moveset, not a fan of the stable that he had, the Death Riders. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't. That's not disrespectful. Some people are not fans of me, and that's fine. That it is what it is. It's just a part of the game. But I don't think that what Gail Kim said was warranted a comment from Kenny. So Kenny, hold on. It's wrestling though. We can't have them beat the smaller wrestler just because they are bigger. It depends on what it is. And like I said, the bigger people sound crazy. They don't technically always have to win. I'm not saying that neither. I want to reiterate. They've had great matches. I remember Rey Mysterio and Kevin Nash. They had a match. And basically, Kevin was about to powerbomb Rey. Ray punched him and then fell back 1, 2, 3. I'm not even saying these matches have to be quick. I'm not saying that bigger wrestlers should win all the time against smaller wrestlers, but you have to make it make sense. You have to make it make sense. With Riho, they didn't make it make sense at all. I didn't see her match with Mercedes Moné, so I can't put judgment on that. But I definitely understand where they're coming from. But even in real life, we see smaller people be bigger person. It just depends on the moveset. Like, I can see that too, but even Roxanne is just another one. Roxanne is a little different, but I understand. Roxanne is considered one of the shortest women on the roster. Like, as long as it's slightly more believable, I don't have a problem with it. You know, let's say Raquel and Roxanne feud against each other randomly, right? I would think that Raquel would manhandle or woman handle her for a majority of the match, and then Roxanne comes out of nowhere with a win. She shows some kind of resiliency. What I don't want to see is her and Raquel back and forth. Oh, well, I just outdid you this and I just outdid you that. Eventually, the chickens come to roost. And that's exactly what would have to happen when it comes to a smaller wrestler. That's why even now people are like, some people don't like that Sami Zayn is considered an underdog because he loses matches, but he wins a lot of matches. He wins a lot. So people are like, how is he an underdog? If he's beating Gunther and he's beating Solo for the belts and stuff, which is good points. But going back to what Gail said, I don't think what Kenny said was warranted, and I do think that Kenny was very disrespectful with what he said. So basically, I'm paraphrasing. Kenny said, another legend, and he used that in quotations, another legend basically busting a split for a TKO gift basket. Basically saying Gail Kim is just crapping on AEW because TKO is giving her some money or whatever. So that's disrespectful. That was a Kenny, you wild one. You a wild one for that one. Because to me, she didn't like crap on the company. She didn't even crap on Riho. She just said that it wasn't believable. So for you, and I hate to say it, but a lot of these wrestlers that's trying to defend AEW, they don't do a good job at it because they sound so unprofessional. And Kenny, that was very unprofessional and that was very disrespectful. You know, she's married, and I understand if her husband would be upset with that kind of situation. Like, you get what I'm saying? Because you just disrespected his wife. And you basically say, oh, look at what she's doing. And he didn't say Gail Kim. So, of course, he's probably going to spin it and say, I wasn't talking about Gail. But we know who he's talking about. Like, what are we doing here? That's very disrespectful. He didn't have to say that. I felt that was unnecessary. One, because people know that Gail Kim don't really rock with WWE like that. And, you know, TKO owns WWE. And two, why didn't you just say who it was instead of just hiding like that? You know, defend your company by all means and stand up for your company. But to sit here and just talk about what a woman did to get some money or a gift basket was very disrespectful. And this is why a lot of people don't rock with AEW, because sometimes people look at what the wrestlers are saying and tweeting. They're like, wow, why would I want to look at something like that? It's crazy. Real, I agree with you, honey. It's dumb. Yeah, it's just not believable. Like, she can win some matches, of course. She can win matches. She can win championships, but make the matches believable. But it's not just the problem with Riho, though, man. I've been saying the same thing about wrestling in general, especially in AEW. In AEW, they do not care about the bigger wrestlers. The bigger wrestlers lose to people half of their size all the time. They don't even get to show power. They don't get to know a lot of things because they don't care about the bigger wrestlers to be dominant like they're supposed to. Wardlow should have been a world champion. But then y'all kept messing with him, and then eventually he got injured. And he's injured again, unfortunately. Wardlow's a good example. This dude should have been a champion, should have been unstoppable. There's not a lot of champions that they had has a build of a powerhouse. None of them do. Some of them are very athletic. You got your Jericho, you got your Hangman, you got your Moxley, your Kenny, Swerve, Samoa Joe. I think Samoa Joe was like the heaviest. MJF. I think Samoa Joe was the heaviest champion that they had. But still, I don't think what Kenny said was very necessary. So it's just like, you know, hopefully he does apologize, because that's a heavy assumption that you think that TKO is paying Gail Kim to be critical of Riho. Mind you, Riho just returned to AEW. It ain't like she's been consistently there. She just returned there. So for you to just turn around and say that was just very disrespectful. But long story short, I do agree with Gail Kim. I think Gail Kim has more of a point than everybody else that's trying to bring up WWE and stuff. And even then, even if you are bringing up WWE to that point, she wasn't talking about WWE. She was talking about a clip that she saw from Jim Cornette. So WWE has nothing to do with the situation. And like I said, for the people that said stuff about Stephanie and all these other women, you got a point, but at the same time, that's not the point. That's not the basis of what she's talking about. She's talking about Riho in AEW after listening to Jim Cornette talk about Riho in AEW. Nothing to do with WWE. You can't even sit here and say that Jim Cornette shields for WWE, because he don't even like the product in WWE like that. He don't even like it like that. So it's no shield for WWE. Riho just needs to be a bit more believable. The matches that she has, they need to be more believable. Straight up. That's it. Point blank, period. But shout out to you, Justin. I just wanted to speak about that for a little bit. You know, I'm on the way to get the kids. I'll be there shortly. But still, it's just to understand how people can be like, okay, people can disagree with me, right? And I disagree with people. But that doesn't technically mean that I'm going to be disrespectful. I'm going to bring disrespect to them because they talk about C3 Ultimate Wrestling, right? I'm not going to sit here and be disrespectful, especially if I know they have a significant other. I'll sit here and say I disagree. I may hit a light jab or a light joke. What I'm not going to do is, I'm definitely not just going to be like, oh, well, look at what you're doing with your body to get something. Horrible. But let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Definitely a wonderful day. It looks like it's about to rain, but a good day could be full of rain. It could be washing something away, or it could be getting ready to grow something. So always remember that. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.